The iPhone 12 is coming out this year in 2020 and coming out in a bunch of different variants. We've seen the pricing finally leaked and all the sizes that are coming out. We've seen so many leaks from my homie Jon Prosser. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that they're going to come out with some great phones with great specs, including an OLED screen, which is finally that thing. We're getting the OLED screen on the low end of one of the iPhones. Unlike these last couple of years where the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 have had LCD screens to keep the price down. So the question is, how in the world is Apple going to make the iPhone 12 so inexpensive? The quoted prices right now are both under $750. How are they doing this? Well, I'm going to tell you everything that I know that Jon Prosser did not tell you about how that's being done right after this.
This is, you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back. And for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. If that sounds like fun to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anything I talk about will be in the description below. But for now, let's just get into the video. So I was talking to my homies Jon Prosser and Greg from Greg's Gadgets, and we were discussing the pricing of the iPhone 12 and how it's interesting that such powerful phones with 5G, OLED, and all of the newest accoutrements were going to be so inexpensive. Now, if you look at what Samsung has done this year, they kind of went the opposite direction. And I've talked about it quite a few times this year, how Samsung took a bet this year to put out all expensive phones. Now, they couldn't have known that a global pandemic would come out and kind of ruin the economy for the first half of the year. But regardless, it still would have been the wrong move. So many people are not looking to spend upwards of $1,400 for a smartphone. There are so many incredible phones for a much lower price. And for the last several years, Apple has actually been taking steps to lower the prices of their base model phone. It started back with the iPhone XR at $749. No one saw that coming. And then last year, the iPhone 11 at even less. I mean, no one saw that coming. Everyone thought that it might just be $749 again, but no. Apple went down even more. Well, Apple looks poised to do it again, but this time with a phone with 5G and an OLED screen. How are they doing this? They have given away the cost savings of the LCD on the smaller version. How are they saving money and not passing it along to us? I can already hear it in the comment section. Well, Samsung does it. Their phones are under $600 and they have OLED screens, which is true. The A series of Samsung phones do have OLED screens and they are under $400 on occasion. But let's not forget, they make the processors that go in those phones, the Exynos, as well as the OLED displays themselves. And Apple buys OLED displays from Samsung. So of course, Samsung's not gonna cut them a deal. Why would they? I mean, for as much as they're not competitors, since iOS versus Android are very different things, they kind of still are competitors. So of course Samsung's not going to cut them any kind of sweetheart deal, knowing that Apple is always on their heels of taking over and dominating smartphone sales across the entire world. iPhones are sold more in America than any other smartphone, so it's already got a clutch tightly on the North American market. So with all of these different phones starting from $649, going all the way up to $1,099 for the iPhone 12 Pro Max, how are they doing this? Obviously, the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max have stayed the same price-wise, so there's no surprise there. But the fact that there's two lower-priced iPhone 12s with OLED and 5G is a little confusing. Until you realize that the A14 processor that will be inside of the iPhone 12 is, made by Apple, so it's not like they're exactly having to negotiate with themselves exactly. Turns out that it doesn't look like Apple is actually getting their OLEDs from Samsung this time. It's actually been a point of controversy over the last couple of years. A lot of people have said that sometimes they get better OLEDs, sometimes they don't. You'll see people in the comment sections and on forums talking about how one OLED's better than the other, the Samsung's better than the Apple, and it's because Samsung is holding back some of their better OLEDs for their own phones. And listen, I don't know, maybe that's true, but it's not gonna be an issue for the iPhone 12. Little birdie told me something. It appears this time, Apple is going with a completely different vendor for their OLEDs, BOE. Now, if you don't know who BOE is, let me give you a little bit of background about them. Back in 2018, BOE demonstrated a foldable and flexible OLED display, so they're not exactly new to the game. Also, they've made a deal with Qualcomm for in-display fingerprint sensors. That's a little juicy. Whether or not that actually comes to future iPhones, I don't know, but Apple is dealing with BOE, thus, it's out there. Not only this, but obviously Apple's leverage with BOE is a little bit different than it is with Samsung. Apple will be selling tons of these phones over the course of years, and if they're establishing a long-term relationship, they can guarantee BOE a tremendous amount of money. So, quantity equals price cut, and of course, I'm sure BOE would love to beat Samsung at their own game. So of course, if you think about it, this makes a lot of financial sense. Apple gets to fill the holes in their lineup from a pricing perspective, and the customers win. Now, speaking of pricing, let's take a look at what the lineup could look like. Typically, when a new iPhone is released, one of the previous generations sticks around and gets a price cut. And if you look at the pricing structure that exists today, you can make some assumptions. The iPhone SE right now is $399. Now, we would assume if the iPhone SE Plus was out, it would be maybe $450, something like that, maybe $500, who knows? But of course, that gap would be $400, $500. Now, we're up to $649 for the 12, $749 for the 12 6.1, and then the Pros at $999 and $1099. It does give us one other gap, and that's the iPhone 11. I believe that thing could go down to either $499 or $550, somewhere in there, because if you think about it, $400, $500 for the SE Plus, if that comes out, $550 maybe for the iPhone 11, and then you go on to the new iPhone 12s at $649, $749, $999, $1099. And I just don't think there's going to be anything at the $900 mark. It doesn't make any sense. With all these phones out there right now, I can't imagine what that would be. And I do not see the 11 Pro sticking around. The 11, on the other hand, could be another budget option for people who don't want an SE, but don't want a 12 or a 12 Pro. Now, make no mistake, Apple coming out with multiple phones goes against some things I've said on this channel before. I don't like having too many choices. I think sometimes there is a return on investment that ends somewhere at about 2 phones per cycle of phone releases. But, listen, data doesn't lie, and Apple isn't going to make phones they don't think are going to sell, so I'm going to go with whatever their data is saying. And here's the thing. If they can offer a phone at pretty much every major price point, that gives more entry points for people to come or stay in the Apple ecosystem when it's time for them to upgrade their existing phone. Or in some cases, when people are just upset with their existing phone and are looking for something different. If you give them different entry points into the ecosystem and then sell them on upgrades later, or software or services, it's kind of hard to argue. But I'll definitely be talking more about this on my podcast with Greg from Greg's Gadgets called GadgetCast. Make sure you subscribe to that and check out the live stream we do every Sunday. You can check out the link in the description below. Come join us, talk about this. Tell us what you think. Is Apple doing the right thing? Having so many phones released this year, that's a lot. It's like 5 phones for Apple. That's a huge number. That's going up every single year. Is that the smart move? But if for no other reason, it's going to make their wallets fatter. Even if they don't sell every single one in a way that they would hope to, they're still going to sell a lot. So it looks like Apple has figured out a great pricing strategy moving forward. They now have more phones really than they ever have before across so many different pricing structures, as well as performance. All of the 12s are going to have the A14 processor, which is going to be ridiculous. We know this. We already know this. And the camera capabilities are probably going to be equally as mind-bending. I've been using my iPhone 11 Pro Max to do B-roll on my channel for the last month and a half, and no one has really noticed. It seems pretty much the same. It's really incredible quality. And if Samsung is smart, they will pay attention to this and offer a lot more low-priced phones in 2021. This year, they really didn't at all. While they did lower the price of the S10 series, you can get them in my Amazon Renewed series for even less. You might want to check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. That's where I go to Amazon and buy some Renewed phones. It's been pretty cool. You should probably watch those. In the meantime, let me know what you think about the iPhone 12 pricing and watch the video like I talked about. Peace and love. See you next time.